Now we will see what are functions and how we can use functions in Rust programming language. So functions are just a block of organized, modular, and reusable code. So the main purpose that we define functions is that if we have some code block that we know that we will use multiple times, then it's better to define it as a function so that you can just call that function instead of writing that code again and again. And the other purpose is that it breaks your code into chunks, into meaningful blocks. So if you have a huge workflow and you know that these parts are similar, these parts form one workflow, then you can split your bigger code into smaller chunks, smaller blocks that will be more organized. So it improves organization of your code and reusability of your code. And in Rust, snake case is preferred. By snake case, we means lowercase letters like ABC. And if we want multiple words, then we can separate them by underscore. So this is snake case. So we will prefer this while naming the functions. And the order in which functions are defined does not matter. So you can define function 1 and function 2, and you can call function 2 in function 1, although it's defined later. So we will see all of this in the code. So I have created a new project called functions, and we have already seen an important function in our earlier examples also, the function main, which is the entry point for the Rust programs. So the function starts with this f and n. So while defining function, you have to use this keyword fn, and then the function name, and then the braces. And the main body of the function will start with this curly braces, and within this you will write the definition of your function. Here main is not taking any arguments, parameters, but it can take parameters, and we will shortly see an example of that. So first let's define some function. So we have to write fn, then the function name. So let's call it func snake case we are using, func a, and let's say it does not take any parameters, so it's empty. And what this function does is it simply prints func a. So that's all. And now we can call it from our main function. So you see that this func a was defined after main, what we can call in the main, and this order is not important. So let's run it. And you see that func a was printed from this function, which we called from main. So now let's see another function where we will pass some parameters to it. So let's name it func b, and let's say it takes 2 parameters. So we should specify the type of parameter. So let's say it's i32, which means an integer of 32 bits. And then let's say the second parameter is y, which is a float 64. And now let's print here the values of x and y. And let's call this from the main, func b. And in place of x, we can pass 20. And y is a float, so let's pass 10.5. And let's run it. So we see that x got the value of 20, which we passed here, and y got the value of 10.5. And these we call parameters, and when we are using it, passing some concrete value, we call these arguments. But generally people use these parameters and arguments interchangeably, and that doesn't make a huge difference. So that was a brief introduction to functions. one of the simplest cases of functions. In the further video, we will continue our discussion on functions, where we will see how we can return a value from function. So here we were just calling the function which was doing some operation, but we will see how we can return a value from the function, and we can assign that return value to a variable. So see you in the next video.